And what is happening, all moviegoers? TCT and Elizabeth Pinky Squirrel back again, and today we are back at the Alamo Draft House for one of their, what is it, time capsule viewings?
Yeah,
I guess that's what they're calling it now, the time capsule viewings. Kind of like when we did Titanic and Forrest Gump. Guys, thank you for the views on the Titanic video, by the way. That's great. We absolutely love that. If you haven't already subscribed, please, I have a lot of you guys that are watching and you don't hit the subscribe button. It's helping me. We're almost at 500. It's helping me, so let's do that. Today, we are back going to see the 1997 classic, I Know What You Did Last Summer. What do you know about this film? I've seen this film many times. I have never seen this film in the theater. This is my first time seeing it in the theater. I was 5 when this movie came out, but I remember when it released at Blockbuster, I went to rent it, and I loved every second of it at the time. It's definitely aged. I will tell you that. It's definitely aged over the years, but it's the reason we have a lot of these elements in these scary movies now. Think Pretty Little Liars, for instance. Guys, if you've seen I Know What You Did Last Summer and Pretty Little Liars, you will know what I'm talking about. I've seen Pretty Little Liars because I had a friend that passed away that it was his favorite show, so to remember him, I watched it. It was good. They took a lot from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Let's just put it that way. It's not one of my favorite things ever, but I can get why it was popular. Same with this. The cast is the reason I like this movie. The second one, I'm not too crazy about. I still Know What You Did Last Summer, but I Know What You Did Last Summer is definitely a favorite. What do you know about this film?
The title.
The title. So when she told me that, I was like, okay, this one might be a fun one to introduce her to. She's been watching a lot of horror movies with me lately. We've made it through all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. We've made it through all of Scream. Maybe one or two. One or two. She's seen all the Friday the 13th, and we finally watched Freddy vs. Jason, which she absolutely loved it. Even though it's not like the best movie ever made, it's still fun to watch those guys go at it. But this one, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Gellar, think about it. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and Freddie Prinze Jr., Buffy the Vampire Slayer's husband. Let's just put it that way. All in the movie. You know, that's one of the reasons it was so popular in 1997. So let's go inside and see what you think of I Know What You Did Last Summer. She has no idea what this is at all. Which is surprising, considering she's watched a bunch of movies that have referenced it. So she's not knowing that they're referencing I Know What You Did Last Summer. She will after this. All right, so let's go check this out.
Don't you see? He's got us now. Okay, this is exactly what he wants. We can't go to the police, not now. He's made sure of that. He's just out there and he's watching us and waiting. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
All right, guys, we are back from seeing I Know What You Did Last Summer. So, what did you think?
It was a silly plot.
We all know that.
Yeah.
We all know that. Everybody who's watched it knows it's a silly plot based on a book. But I love plots like that, just the way that they did it. But you got to think in terms of this. In 1997, they really hadn't done anything like that. You got to what you've seen today in all of the movies. In 1997, that was really the first one to tackle that. Where teenagers make a huge life mistake, do something incredibly stupid, and it ends up coming back to haunt them later on. Yeah. This is the movie that really brought that forth. They had done it in previous movies before, but never to this extent.
No, that was pretty extensive.
It was pretty extensive. Let's just get down to brass tacks here. What did you think of Jennifer Love Hewitt?
She was the lawyer. The baby lawyer.
She was basically the main star of the movie.
Oh, see, I thought that Sarah Michelle was more the star.
She thinks Sarah Michelle was more of the star. She had way more to do.
Yeah.
Like with the feel, I guess. But no, Julie is the star of the movie. Jennifer Love Hewitt. because she's the one that's uncovering everything, and she's the
Oh.
one that wants to go to the police. So she's the
From the
innocent
beginning.
girl.
Yeah.
Basically, she's the basically what you would call the final girl.
Yep. She's the final girl.
The final girl is usually the star of the movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ryan Felipe, who played it wasn't Ray, it was the other one.
Max?
No,
No.
not Max. What was his name?
The blonde one.
Yeah. See, we didn't forget his name already
Oh,
because he was awful. But we know who Ryan Felipe is because he is in the USA show Shooter.
Oh, okay.
He is the star of Shooter. But every time he's on the screen, like, that's one of the reasons in the intro I didn't say his name. I really I like him as a person, like as an actor. I do not like that character at all.
I think that was the point, though.
Yeah. But you can't go around tackling everybody you suspect, man, and being like, I will kill you! I will kill you! Ah! Like, exactly what he does. It's exactly what he does. What was his name? Johnny Galecki, who played Max?
Yeah, it was.
It was Johnny Galecki from The Big Bang Theory. He's
Yep.
Leonard in The Big Bang Theory. She was really surprised to see that he was in this movie.
Didn't recognize his name.
You didn't recognize him as Max because, for one, he's not wearing the glasses like he is in The Big Bang
and
Theory.
He's really young.
He's very young. Remember, this is 1997.
Right.
In The Big Bang Theory, he's already like near 30, 40 something.
Yeah.
He's in his like mid 30s during
He's
Big Bang.
teaching.
Yeah, so he's definitely in his early 20s here.
Okay.
He did fine. He wasn't in it very long.
He was a good red hair.
Yeah. He was a good red herring, let's just put it that way. I brought him up before I brought up Sarah Michelle Gellar because I think you got a little bit more to say about Sarah Michelle Gellar. She's been watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the first time, so she's very into Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yep.
First of all, tell them how you like Buffy.
Well, I've already watched the first season.
Yeah, you're starting season 2.
Season 2, and I'm hooked.
She loves Buffy.
Pun intended.
Pun intended. Yeah, we'll get to that part. Make sure you speak up on this one. Sarah Michelle Gellar, how does her character in this movie, it's Helen, I believe, right? How does she differ from Buffy? Buffy is basically a badass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helen is not.
No, Helen is what she's meant to be. She's the pretty one.
She's the pretty one, which fits Sarah Michelle Gellar to a T. Everybody said she was supposed to play the original Barbie. Let's just put it that way. If anybody was going to do it back in those days, it was Sarah Michelle Gellar. There was a reason they chose her to play Daphne in Scooby-Doo. Speaking of Daphne, speaking of her true life beau, the one that Sarah Michelle Gellar is married to, is Freddie Prinze Jr. What'd you feel about him in the movie?
Which one was he?
He was Ray, the one on the fishing boats.
And he survives.
And he survives. So does Julie. The other two do not. We all know this, so don't be like, "Oh, you spoiled the movie for me." Don't watch. I mean, the movie's been out since 1997, so stop with that crap. All right. I'm gonna tell you, he's good to a point. He is not. This is not his greatest performance. Let me just put it that way. He has much better performances, especially now that he's older. Like some of the stuff I'm seeing with him on the Hallmark Channel, on Netflix, like some of his newer movies, he's very good now. But in those days, he was like the teenage heartthrob, so he was in the movie just getting going. He had done Summer Catch with Jessica Biel. I think it was like in 2000, like right after this. He was Jennifer Love Hewitt's boyfriend in this and in the sequel. She'll probably watch the sequel eventually. We're not going to do a review on the sequel. Personally, I'm not a fan of the sequel. Sequel's fun, but it's not as good of a movie as this one. I can tell her that. The only thing I love about the sequel is Jack Black's in it to a point, just for a few minutes. But everything else is like, nah, you don't need it. This one was good enough. This one stood alone. You don't need the sequel. You don't need any of those cruddy sequels. They're and trust me, they're cruddy. I don't care. Oh, but the sequels are better than the originals. No, not here. No. Here, this one is barely doable, okay? In 1997, this was like a solid smash hit because this hadn't been done before. You know, like at least slasher and psychological thriller. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. What would you categorize this in? Slasher, horror, or psychological thriller, if you could choose? Were you more messed with your mind in this? Or was it more of a slasher, or was it more of a just, it was scary all around?
I think it was more psychological.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the old Hitchcocks.
It's Hitchcock, yeah. Kind
of like Rope, where the body's right there.
There was a moment where I watched her in the theater when Sarah Michelle Gellar is coming home to greet her father. You guys can go watch the movie and listen to what I'm talking about. She's coming to greet her father, and we see the fisherman's shadow come into her house as she's like going into the refrigerator. And then she turns around to look at her dad again, but we also get a shot of the upstairs, and the fisherman is just going upstairs, and we know he's in the closet the entire time she has her scene there. Well, she was sitting there looking at me like, and I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. It's all up here. It's okay. Like, what's he gonna do? It's okay. Relax. Nothing happens, right? But you can hear the from the closet. We can. She can't. So then when she wakes up in the morning and sees the
crown.
Was it? It says the crown is right here on her head, and it says soon on the mirror, and all of a sudden pieces of her hair had been cut. He cut her hair while she was asleep. That's psychological, right? That's, to me, more scary than... Go ahead and just kill me. Just don't mess with me. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to mess with me like that, at least, okay, me and you. If I lose, I lose. If I win, I'm going to kill you. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to mess with me like that. You know what I'm saying?
It tore down the fourth wall a little bit because we saw the shadow of him going in, but she didn't. But we're like, don't go there, and she does go there.
Yeah, I mean it's basic horror movie tropes. Why don't we just get into the moving car?
Yes, with the chainsaws.
No, we should go hide next to the chainsaws. You've all seen that commercial. Everybody's seen that commercial, okay? And then the killer's like. Your basic standard horror movie from what you would hear from Randy and Scream.
Right.
Number one, you can never have sex. Number one, you can never drink or do drugs. And number three, number one, you can never have sex. No. Number two, because look at me, I said number one. Number two, you can never drink or do drugs. And number three, never under any circumstances say you'll be right back, because you won't be back.
Nope.
Everybody broke every freaking rule.
Every rule.
All of them had sex at the beginning of the movie. All of them.
And that was what I thought it was.
All of them were drinking. Yeah.
See, I thought it was about the teenage, misconduct. And that's what they knew.
But you didn't.
Not the murder part.
So here's where I like at the forefront. At the forefront, during the credits, it shows you that curve where the accident happens. You're like, what's going to happen here?
Oh, yes.
It really brings to the first thing you see is that turn. And then you see him going around the turn. What's going to happen?
And then the coin.
But because she didn't know anything, I didn't tell her that they hit someone. The movie theater tried to tell her, but I just kept jabbering in her ear. I was like, hey, Alamo, first of all, stop doing that, because there's people going to see these nostalgic movies that have never seen it. So don't put up an interview from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Well, basically, they hit this person on the side of the road. Don't tell her that. She's never seen it. She wants to be surprised. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that. When movie theaters do that, it drives me crazy, because they did that last year when she saw Jaws 2. You know, they played the freaking movie trailer, the Jaws 2 movie trailer before the movie. You don't do that. Just play the movie. Okay, so you see the scene where they hit him, right?
I thought it was a cow.
Thought it was a cow.
Yeah.
Then, but that's the best moment when Jennifer Love Hewitt's like, ah, and then all of a sudden
the boot.
To me that's the best moment of the movie.
But then you have to remember back, because the guy at the beginning on the rock was wearing a boot.
So it's the red herring. They want you to believe they killed David Egan, who had the little "I love you."
Yep. Trinket.
The little trinket or whatever. But the thing that shows you right there when they dump him on the dock was the tattoo, right? Well, David Egan never had a tattoo, and that's what Anne Hesh said. His sister.
How did I miss that? I saw the tattoo. It had her.
But she's saying, what tattoo? He never had a tattoo on his arm.
That's probably where I put it together.
So then she's like, it wasn't him. Nope. That's what she put together. It was someone else.
Yep.
It was someone that the person that really killed David Egan. You know what I'm saying? So, which Ben Willis is the name of the fisherman in the movie. We learned that right at the very end.
Right when I put it together.
She does the horror movie thing again at the end, where he's like, "Hurry on the boat now!" I'm like,
but they just done that. Because she had just figured out the name of the boat. So it had to be safe, right?
No.
Why would the second one be unsafe?
Because she doesn't trust Ray. Like, she didn't... Like, they want you to think it's Ray doing these things. If it was Ray... Because, for one, he's never around. Freddie Prinze Jr. is barely in the movie sometimes. Right? Which, this is why I'm saying it's not his greatest performance. Like, it's a fun performance for him. Like, he probably had fun making the movie. It's the same thing in the second one. He's only in like 10 minutes. Which drives me crazy. It's one of the reasons I don't like the second one. But come on, man. Like, everybody in the theater was like, oh, don't do that. Because this random guy from nowhere knocks out the supposed killer. Just bam. And then it's like, get on the boat now. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, how is that? Yeah.
Like, a random man that was standing there just went bam with one shot, knocks out Freddie Prinze Jr. Who else could do that in one shot? The killer. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And then
that's why it was fun for me, because it was like
it kept you guessing. It's over the top, but it kept you guessing.
Yeah. You
could not predict what was going to happen.
Well, I was in a false sense of security.
I think exactly, and I think the scariest moment in the movie for her, it wasn't the Anne Hesh scene where she just shows up at the car. That's a good jump scare, by the way, because she about levitated to the ceiling, and she was like, ah.
Yeah, I think.
But I think the scariest moment for you, other than him being in the plastic, was when she was crawling through the ice.
The ice.
When she trapped herself in the fish hold. And in order to get away from him and start throwing the ice near the door so he couldn't get in. And here come the bodies of her friends.
Yep.
They were in the ice and she's like, Elizabeth just went. Like, and I'm like, okay, because she's still watching these horror movies with me. So she's not been trained to, when things like that, there are going to be horror movies where bodies are hidden in these locations where they're trying to escape. Yeah. But in order to block the escape.
Hitchcock didn't make him jump out of the ice.
No, they didn't make him jump out of the ice. But Jason Voorhees did.
Right.
Freddy Krueger did.
Yeah.
You know, there's like if you're trying to get away from Jason, you're going to open a door and there's going to be a body hanging there.
Right.
There's going to be something that's going to stop you, and it's going to be something scary. So there's Sarah Gellar comes down, and then Ryan Philippe comes down. Well, not comes down, but he's down, but she backs into him. It's like, ah!
She puts her hand on his head.
What about the Johnny Galecki scene where he's full of crabs in the back of her trunk?
Oh, that was so gross.
It was so gross to see,
because
but
the crawfish came out of his mouth.
Look, she started getting kind of nervous. I kind of been like, it's okay, it's just, you know.
I thought you were gonna tell me it was a rat.
No, I said, because she was like, "What's?" I'm like, "It's crabs. It's okay." I actually had to tell her what it was because she was getting like.
It was not just crabs, though.
No, yeah, but I didn't want to tell you it was a body in there because you would have been like, because she did this a couple times.
And I still jumped.
And she still jumped. No, you didn't jump at that, actually. You just watched. It was like...
No, when I covered my eyes.
Yeah, when you covered your eyes, you still... Because the noise is what does it. Yeah. So I tell people to do this when because I tried to whisper to her at the end when he busts through the glass. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, there's a jump scare here. I don't want you to like hit the ceiling. So she went like this. I was like, no, do this right here. That's the best thing to do when there's a jump scare about to happen. Close your ears. I'll give you guys that tip. Close your ears. You keep your eyes like this. Like keep them barely open to where you see what's going on, but just like... That's kind of what you got to do. Just do the Home Alone faces. You know what I'm saying? But no, it's a fun ride. Now you can kind of see what's going to happen with Pretty Little Liars if you ever do get around to watching that. Yeah. I didn't finish Pretty Little Liars, so guys, don't be like, "Hey, you watched all Pretty Little Liars. What kind of man are you?" Guys, I watched Pretty Little Liars because it had a lot of this in it. Plus, I did it out of memory from my friend Grady. I mean, it was one of his favorite shows. So I'm like, you know what? Because he was always telling me about the red herring type thing about that show. I could care less about how girly it is. It's awful when it's like really girly or whatever. But we messed somebody's life up and we're getting tortured for it. That's what I was kind of fast forwarding through parts just to get to those. You know, so I didn't watch all of Pretty Little Liars, but I did find it intriguing that that's what they went. So they did basically a huge series of I know what you did last summer.
Yeah, that would be hard to watch, I think.
Well, actually, it's not because it's more lighthearted than this.
Oh, okay.
Like it's psychological, but I haven't seen the later seasons, so I can't. I made it to about season 4, and then I couldn't do it anymore. You know, it's just too feminine for me. You know, I was like, oh, this guy's cheating on this guy with this guy's boyfriend who's cheating on this person with that. Like, guys, I can't do the 90210 crap. I can't do it.
I need a map.
Like, how many times can one girl sleep with someone's boyfriend and still be alive? Like, yeah. That's ABC Family and CW for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's what they do. So, speaking of this movie, we're going on about 20 minutes now, so if you were to watch it, don't worry about it 1997. What grade would you give it today out of 10? Because we're not going to do an A-B thing because technically we would probably say B, right?
I give it a 6.
So you would give it a 6, right? So just today. But what do you think it would have been back in 90? Now, if you sit back and think, 1997, you were there. You know what it was like. Would something like that have been super popular like it is and cult classic as it is? Yeah. Well, you understand why it was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So back in 1997, I'll tell you guys the first time I watched this movie. It had just come out. I was 5 years old. I was already watching some scary movies, and I had seen the ads for this, right? I go to Blockbuster one weekend. There it is. All over the wall. Remember when this entire wall here was just one movie? And you would have to pick behind the thing and grab. Those of you millennials who have no idea what Blockbuster is, and you should because it went out of business in like 2008, 2009, 2010. You know, that's when they started going out of business. So you still should, technically. I watched it with my cousins, and we had a good time. It scared the crap. I would say it scared the crap out of me at 5 years old. And I shouldn't have been watching it at 5 years old. But I'm glad I did. Because it set me up to not be scared of Jason and Freddy. But I was like, oh, if I can watch this, I can watch other things. And I did. And I wasn't as scared about it. It was one of my first horror movies that I had rented, I would say. Mm-hmm. You know, like the first horror movie I ever watched was on TV, and it was Halloween. Oh. But it was edited for television. It wasn't like it was. This I watched. It was solid R. Mm. You know, we all rented it because we was at my aunt's house and we decided to watch it. You know, shout out to Christina, Heather, Tabby, and Kendra. You know, so I think we were all watching it that night, and they'll tell you in the comments if they decide to comment. But Oh my God! Like it's where I said I have two actresses that I like. Everybody knows I love Stallone. You know, he's one of my favorites. You know, Costner as well. You know, those guys. But I only have technically two actresses of all time, and people always criticize me for it. But you guys got to remember, I grew up in the '90s. Okay, Nicole Kidman is my favorite actress ever. I will tell you that because I watched everything she did my entire life because she started getting famous when I was a kid. Yeah. So I've watched almost every movie she did. Her Stanley Kubrick movies, her Batman movie, her Tom Cruise movies, you know, Days of Thunder. I watched all of that stuff. I watched everything Jennifer Love Hewitt ever did, from Spring Breakers to Trojan War. Oh. Right? To the Tuxedo. Right. One that you like with Jackie Chan. Yeah, that's fun. Right? This movie made me start watching her. Okay. Because I was like, I don't know. I don't know what it was about her in this movie. I guess she was kind of like just the high school girl that I had seen like out in the open. She didn't fit the mold. She didn't fit what mold? The teenage blonde. No, so she fit more of the mold of what you would expect the high school girl to be. Like the television mold is, I'm a teenage blonde, I'm gonna get drunk, I'm a party of it. Right. She didn't fit that. She felt like, oh, this is the girl I'm actually gonna see when I go to high school. Right. But somebody in overalls studying, has a good time when she, you know what I'm saying? That's what drew me, I guess, because I had seen that. I'd had cousins that were in high school, you know, and I was like, oh, well, she's real. Yeah. That's kind of how I felt as a kid with her. But I watched her whole career, and I also identify with her a little bit because of her story about her mother. Guys, if you haven't seen her interview on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, please do it. She's been on there a couple times talking about how she took care of her mother while her mother was sick. I kind of did the same thing with my grandmother. So I get to identify with her a little bit. Because she kind of went through the same things I did after her career. So that's one of the reasons you don't see her in many things anymore, is because she kind of can't do it. Now, granted, her biggest thing she ever did was The Ghost Whisperer. If you haven't seen that, that's an incredible show. Have you ever seen The Ghost Whisperer? I'm going to have to introduce her to that. Oh. That is kind of like, you ever seen Touched by an Angel? Yes, I've seen that. That's kind of what it is. Okay. She can speak to ghosts, and she tries to reconnect the ghosts with the people that they lost or whatever. Okay. But each episode's its own thing. Right. Like but it does continue a story to a point. Okay. There's a reason why it's got a lot of seasons. Oh. She's great in it. And she's the star. Okay. I watched that show a lot in high school, you know. My grandmother liked it. So when she was watching it, I was watching it because she had the television at the time. So you know what I'm saying? I'd be in there eating, and she'd be watching that on TV. So you would give it a 6. Today, I would probably give it a 6.5. But back in the 90s, what would you give it? If you had saw that in the 90s, and that had never been done before. I would give it an 8. An 8. Because it's got a new idea. It takes the old, but then it makes it its own. I'd be right around an 8, but I couldn't give it an 8 because of some of the silliness. There was a lot of like over the top acting by Ryan Philippe and Freddie Prinze Jr. I think the best actress in this movie was Jennifer Love Hewitt. Sarah Gellar was even over the top in some of the scenes. The only time I think Jennifer Love Hewitt was over the top was, "What are you waiting for? Huh? Come on, come on!" Like it's like that did nothing for me. It didn't fit either. It didn't fit. But everything else, when she's sitting there at her computer and just and she's just like looking at the person, and you could just tell her life has been. That's where she's acting. Yes, it's like you can tell her life has been messed up. You know, and it's like when she's reading the letter for the first time, she's like, "Mom, like that's acting." You know, so I would give it. Like I said, if this was 1997. I remember the first time I saw it as a kid, I was like, I don't want to watch this again because it scared me. But I'm glad I watched it again when I was like 8. It was like, next time I watched it, it was like 3 years later. I was 8, and I had watched like all the Freddy's and Jasons and all that by then. I would have given it like when I first saw it, maybe a 7. I couldn't go as high as an 8 because back then that kind of horror movie was really strong for me, for me. But I'm glad I saw it because it taught me lessons that I needed to know before I did something stupid like that in high school. Do you think you would ever buy the book and see what the book did? No. You're not going to read the book? No. You just don't like that kind of story?
I'm afraid it's going to be like Rebecca, and I'm going to have a sweat stain on the side of it.
Where you read it and you're going to be like, ah!
Yeah, where you...
We did see an interview at the beginning. Alamo, guys, thank you for trying to ruin the movie for people who have never seen it before.
Actually, that threw me off.
That it was a book?
No. The teenagers dealing with a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
I thought it was about the sex and alcohol. I wasn't even thinking they were throwing someone off a cliff. Or not a cliff.
I've been wanting to talk to her about this for weeks. I kept that as quiet as I could. I think I did a really good job keeping you in the dark. Because we've had tickets to this movie for probably 2 months now. Yes. We bought tickets to in May. Was it at the end of May, right?
Yeah, end of May.
At the end of May, or was it early? It might have been early June. But it's been almost 2 months, and you do understand why they played it this week now, because it's a 4th of July movie, which I had forgot that it was 4th of July. I knew it was like a celebration for the town, but I hadn't seen it in about 10 years. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Here I am, 32 now. Probably haven't seen it since I was 22. It's an older film, and it doesn't come on TV all the time. I haven't seen it on TV in forever. I still Know What You Did Last Summer on there more than I do I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I don't know why. That movie sucked compared to this. This was good. It's a good movie. I told someone at work I was taking you to see this. And he's like, "Oh man, I might have to go back and rewatch that. I enjoyed that. People love the movie. Our theater had a good feeling in there. Good feel. I mean, it was a good feel. People still are invested in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
They were laughing at the laughable parts.
Well, they were laughing at the laughable parts because they probably had seen the movie list.
And I don't think anybody jumped as high as I did, though.
Because I think everybody in there except you had probably seen the movie at some point.
There was one other jump. I heard it.
No, the girl in the front was jumping just like you were. Okay. Because I was watching. There was a girl in the front that was just like her who probably hadn't seen the movie. It was just coming to have a good time. Mm-hmm. But guys, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I know this has been a long video, but we kind of had a good time watching this. This was it's fun going to a horror movie. I think the next one we're going to go, what's the next horror movie we're going to go see? Probably Trap.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
I want to see Trap. M. Night Shyamalan, he may have had some stinkers after he did Signs and The Village and stuff like that. He may have had some bad movies. He's starting to make a good comeback with Knock at the Cabin, The Visit. Now he's doing Trap. He's starting to make a really good comeback. And I'm glad he went back to what he knows best, how to scare people and how to psychologically scare people.
I'm very excited to see that. I'm like, how are they going to do this?
Yeah, I need to show her Knock at the Cabin. Because that's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but what was the other one that we saw with James McAvoy, the one that played Professor X in the First Class, where they cut out the kids' vocal cords?
Oh, Speak No Evil.
Speak No Evil. That one looked interesting to me. That looks like it's gonna be a very psychological type scary. I love watching psychological mysteries and thrillers, guys. That kind of stuff is creative to me. It's not necessarily... We don't know if it's going to be a killer movie when we see trailers like that. I've seen trailers like that where it's like, oh, this dude's going to be the killer. No, he's actually a good guy. Mm-hmm. The person you're following is the killer. And it's like, what? What? The person we're thinking shouldn't be the killer is actually the killer. Oh, nice red herring trailer, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, guys, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Let us know what you all think in the comments below. What's the next movie we're going to go see? Probably Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Oh, no, Twisters. We're going to go see Twisters. Right. And then Deadpool and Wolverine. We are going to go see Twisters, guys. I love the original Twister with Helen Hunt
That was a good movie.
And Bill Paxton, rest in peace, by the way. By the way, rest in peace, Anne Hesh, who was in this movie as well. Right. She was crazy in this movie. Not one of her, to me, one of her best roles that I like her in was Volcano. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she was all right in this movie. But every time you see her on screen now, you're sad because she's gone, and we know it. But let us know what you all think in the comments below. And as always, this is TCT and Pinky Squirrel signing off. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you again on the next movie review.